Are you in Rushden at the moment? Is that right?
Yes,
And where's that? Is that near Northampton?
it's kind of East Midlands.
Yeah, because we came a cropper on that, didn't we, with Stoke, which is North Midlands. That's I said it was in the north, and
Okay, we're
we got
basically
told up for that.
smack the middle of the country. We're about as far from the coast as could possibly be where I live.
So there's the old thing of bullseye, isn't it, with the speedboat out in the street because someone won bullseye once. It's like I
Yeah,
don't live
exactly.
anywhere near any water.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 213. And if you are listening, I should have worked this out before going on air here, Pete. If you are listening on the day of release, what is it, Pete?
September.
No, it's September. I think it's going to be Friday, the 27th of September. That's the day it is. If you're listening on the day of release, should have worked that out beforehand, but we got there. And it is, though. The reason I say that is the first day this year that I've had to turn the heating on in here because it suddenly dropped by about 10, 15 degrees this week.
Yeah.
It seems to. Is
Yeah.
it the same?
Yeah, we went for a walk last night, the Wednesday. There's two left, because it'll be getting too dark. So we did the Wednesday evening walk and we went up to Kelston Round Hill, which is up on like one of the hills around Bath. And it faces and it's getting to the time of sunsets and that. So it faces out to the west. It faces everywhere, but it goes out to the west. And then we get the westerly winds coming in across Bristol, and all of that. So it was freezing. I was in shorts and a t-shirt because I got warm walking up there, and then I had to get a load of stuff out of my bag because it was absolutely freezing. So yeah, it's happening. I've just had to put all the lights on as well because it's gone really dark.
Deary me. Well, this week we are both off to tomorrow, as it stands. We are both off to Brunel University for Britain's Disabled Strongman and Strongwoman Competitional Weekend. So that's going to be great. So I'm going to be seeing you in person tomorrow, which will
Eric
be
and
good.
Ernie.
Eric and Ernie with our shared bedroom, arranged by Gary. And we have got a very special guest with us today who I'll introduce you to in a second. But I do have a review to read from Apple Podcasts, which I'll do. They seem to be coming in thick and fast now, these reviews, which is fantastic.
We're getting at least one every 3 weeks or something, aren't we?
I don't think we're getting one a week at the moment. We're getting like one a week at the moment. I'm going to have to store them up. So this is from Ian KB North. So it may be that KKB may be Kettlebell. I'm not sure. We'll see. But Ian KB North, and it says, "Addicted to this podcast" is the name of the review, and it's a 5-star review. Just discovered this podcast and really loving the content. This is exactly the kind of training that I do and that interests me. I'm discovering insights from loads of athletes and coaches and more people to follow. Some highlights for me so far are Sven Rieger, Gary Clark, and Lucy Underdown. Cheers, guys. Well, thank you very much, Ian underscore KB North. If you can comment, probably message, on Instagram or Facebook, message us your postal address and if you would like a t-shirt or a hoodie and what size and what color. Now, if you go onto the Health Oddity Instagram and onto the link tree, you'll be able to look in the merch shop there. You'll be able to see the colors available and the sizes. Let us know what you'd like and your delivery address, and then we'll get that sent out to you. So thank you very much. So that's what we're after. Apple Podcast reviews, which helps us spread our reach. And it sounds like Ian is a fairly new listener, so it's great. And thank you for the review and thank you for listening. So we are joined today all the way from the slap bang in the middle of England, the East Midlands, a place called Rushden, which is about 10 miles away from Northampton, by Mr. Del Wilson. How are you doing, Del?
I'm good, thank you, James. I'm doing well.
Good. And you have got a lovely backdrop that you're sat with a wall. If people are watching on YouTube, you've got your lovely wall behind you. Is that the Kettlebell Nation logo
That's
behind
my
you?
logo, which has been hand painted onto my gym wall.
God, that doesn't look hand painted. That I'll have to get you to do some signage at my place. That looks like a properly printed.
There's not really that much skill involved. It's all masked up, and then an image of that is projected onto it, and I cut around the image,
Yeah.
pull off all the bits of tape, then just slap the paint on. and then take the rest of the tape off, and you're left with that.
I was like, because I remember Dan John talking about someone. It was one of his daughters at school saying someone was really good because they could color. They didn't go outside the lines when they colored, and I was like, that. Yeah, you've just given away a massive secret there. Thank you.
Yeah, but there's a lot of skill required, Pete, when you actually have to, scalp around all the little, and it takes a lot of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The actual painting is easy. You're just slapping it on.
Yeah, but no, that looks like a proper
platform the same way. The kettlebell lifting platforms, they're done in the same way. They're just taped on, and then just cut around the stencil and just paint over.
Yeah, I mean that looks like a proper vinyl cut. That looks brilliant. And you are sitting flanked by competition kettlebells as well, which is going to kind of give people. Well, you've got kettlebell written 4 foot behind you, so I think people know what we're going to be talking about slightly today.
I've got about 70 kettlebells altogether, 70 comp bells I think I've got altogether.
Yeah.
So this is one set here. Then I've got another set, a complete set in my garden.
Wow. Yeah, because I do see, and obviously at the end or as we go, we'll kind of let people know where to follow you and where to find out more. But you also, when you train outside, you've got like I don't know if the correct term is like a pagoda or a
gazebo.
Gazebo, but it's wood, isn't it? It's a wooden structure outside.
Yes, built by myself.
Built by yourself as well. Oh my God, you're putting us all to shame. Yeah,
I reckon it sounds like you got too much time on your hands.
You think? Yeah, it sounds like it. It's a fairly sound structure. It's not quite square. Over the years it's bowed a bit and gone a bit twisty, but it's fine. It does the job.
No, it looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. So Del, I mean, you are a personal trainer, you're a kettlebell athlete, you're a kettlebell coach, but you're involved and you have been for a long time in kind of international competition with kettlebells and things. But I suppose, like I mentioned just before we started recording, I was reading a bit about you, and there were sort of things obviously that you were involved in before you were involved in kettlebells that I had no idea about. And it would be really interesting to kind of know, I suppose, a bit about yourself, about your background, about your training history, about the different kind of modalities of exercise or sport that you've taken part in over the years, and then how you eventually happened upon, kettlebell training and what iterations you went through before, kettlebell sport or, all that kind of stuff. It'd be great just to know a bit about you, and we can maybe ask some questions as we go, if that's all right, Del.
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was at school, I was always a kind of very lean, wiry, skinny kid, but I always had a bit of a weird kind of upper arm. My bicep always had like a little poppy bicep on my arm. I still have. And I was always good at arm wrestling. So I was always kind of quite strong. Even as a youngster, I used to arm wrestle much bigger guys than me and beat them. I don't think I ever lost an arm wrestle competition at school. But I was skinny, and I used to run a lot, just not competitively. I used to run in a pair of Green Flash when I first started running, the Dunlop shoes. So I didn't know any different. I bought myself a pair of New Balance running shoes. Now I like running on air. They were fantastic. But I did that for a while, and I was pretty good. I was up to like, I think the best I did was a 9-mile run in, a 6-minute pace. So that was, I think it was about an hour. So I think I was quite a decent runner, but I was built for running. I had that kind of perfect build. And had I kept with that running thing, I think I'd been pretty good. But then when I was going to go on holiday with my parents, actually, I was 17, first time abroad. I thought I wanted to, sort of beat myself up a little bit. So I just joined the gym and just started doing a bit of training in the gym. And I really loved that as well. And gradually the gym thing took over and the running kind of stopped. And then, then after some time, couple of years, well, probably like 19, 20, I kind of started getting into bodybuilding. I like things which are solo pursuits. I've never a good sort of team. I'm quite introverted, I would say. So at school, I struggled with team sports, the football, the rugby, the cricket. I liked athletics. I like cross-country running. So I've always kind of been drawn to, things which I just do on my own.
Mm.
So the bodybuilding was great. Started training. The gym I trained at was very, very orientated towards competitive bodybuilding. And they said, why don't you? They were going to they hosted their own competition. So it's like, as in St. Neots, where I was living at the time. And he said, why not give it a go? So I did. I entered the first timers category. I was 12 stone 12, pretty lean, and I won my category. So that was good. And then the following year, I did another competition. I was just under 14 stone. Not quite as in good shape, but I did the novice category and I won that as well. So that's 2 competitions, 2 wins. And then it kind of just died a death, really. There was a lot of steroid use going on in my gym. You could literally take a couple of weeks off on holiday, you'd come back and people would be noticeably bigger. So that was rife, and it's not really an avenue I wanted to explore. So, and that time I just thought, well, there is natural bodybuilding competitions, but I never kind of gravitated towards those. I just thought, well, I'll just park that up and no more bodybuilding comps, just do the training.
So how did you find, so just a quick one, Del, how old are you now?
Now I'm 58.
Okay, so you're 58, so nearly 60 now, and this was back when you were competing. You did the bodybuilding competitions in your
mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic.
And what we're going to say is you're undisputed.
Yeah, you could say that.
Unbeaten in your two competition career.
Yeah. I mean, I did qualify for number Mr. Britain in the second competition I did, but then obviously I didn't progress further. So I didn't want to start sticking needles in myself.
So unbeaten in the final.
Yeah. So when you were doing the bodybuilding shows initially, like you say, I've met you a few times at competitions in Northampton, I think. And you're 58 now, like you say, and I know you train obviously totally differently now, which we'll get onto in a bit. But you are incredibly, like you say, wiry and lean and kind of muscular, but very lean still. At the age you're at now. So did you have to really kind of diet strictly for the competitions, or were you always incredibly kind of lean and quite defined without having to go to huge extent for the diet?
No, I certainly, because I was bulking up in between, so there was certainly a big element of dieting to get down to low body fat. I think at my biggest I was around 17 stone.
Oh wow. Okay.
I know it seems mad now when you think I'm only 12 and a half.
Yeah.
But then I'd shred about 3 stone to compete in that last competition. So I was carrying a lot of bulk. I know my waist was 36 at its biggest, and at the competitions it was less than 30. That gives you an example. So yeah, I was, but I suppose I carried the weight quite well, and I didn't look fat. But yeah. So yeah, I did take dieting very seriously to get down to those lean body fat levels.
Yeah. So we're talking about not quite. So say, would this have been like in the early 90s or something like that? I'm just trying to do my maths and.
Yes.
Yeah. But back then, like you say, that the steroid use in the gym that you were training at then was kind of rife, and it was kind of just accepted that that's what people did, because it was a competitive sort of bodybuilding gym. So that was kind of part of the culture, really, wasn't it, back then?
Yeah, totally.
And then I mean, it's great that even at that age, the fairly young age, in your early to mid 20s, you kind of recognize that wasn't the route that you wanted to go down. That wasn't sort of like healthy or
no.
That wasn't what you wanted to do. So but then you continued, so you stepped away from the competition, but you continued to train with weights and with resistance training, just for yourself, for your own fitness, your health, the way you looked, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, It's just for the appearance, really. I wasn't ever particularly fit. I did very little in the way of aerobics, so I just did weight training for the sake of just maintaining my bulk.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hovering around 90 kilo for a long time, 95 kilos. So yeah, for ages. Yeah, but then PT came along basically. So I was working at Honda Formula One team in 2000, and yeah, from 2000 onwards. Then the recession hit in 2009, but prior to that, I decided I had enough of this job. Composite laminator, so I was making bits of racing cars out of carbon fiber. And I thought, well, I'm doing this since I left school, basically. So I wanted to do something different.
And that was Formula One cars you were working on?
Yeah, that was at the time, it was Honda.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
Yeah, Honda F1. Well, in 2000, it was BAR, British American Racing, but then changed to BAR Honda, and then it became Honda.
Okay.
And it's probably it's now Mercedes.
Okay.
It's Honda. So I got my PT qualifications in 2007. And then just kind of sat on them. I couldn't see any easy route into PT because I was earning decent money doing what I was doing. And for me to say, right, I'm going to ditch that and just start PT with zero income was really hard when you've got a mortgage to pay and bills to pay. So it kind of wasn't really happening. But then 2009, the recession hit, and Honda we're going to basically pull out of Formula One, which came as a big old shock to all of us. And I asked for voluntary redundancy. So it was a gamble, big gamble, but I got a decent payout from it. So I've been there quite a long time. And that's when I decided I would leave and start the PT. I think I left in March 2009. I didn't get my first client till September. So I kind of blew through that cash quite quickly. So it was quite an alarming period of my life, really, where I was kind of a bit panicky. Could I actually make this work?
This is interesting. This is interesting because I just literally this morning had a coffee with someone who was a finance director in a company, and the company, there was issues within the company, and it basically went into liquidation, and they kind of came out of that, and then they trained, did their level 2, level 3 personal training qualifications.
Yeah,
and they came to have a bit of a chat, and they qualified in January this year, so seven months ago, something like that. 8 months ago, and they've got 2 clients at the moment, and we were sort of talking about things, and you saying that you qualified and it took you 6 months or whatever to get your first client. I mean, I know there will be trainers and gym owners listening as well, and there's this kind of vision or view, I think, by many people that if you just do your PT qualification, people are going to be knocking down your door trying to get your work. And it's not that way, is it?
No, especially when I go down the freelance route. I did consider joining a gym, but I thought, no, that's not what I want to do. I'd just rather be freelance and travel to people's houses or whatever. So that's the route I took. I mean, you could join a gym, but then you get a regular flow of clients. But that's not the route I want to go down. It's
funny that Jim says that, because now is a similar time as well, isn't it? Like, everything's expensive and all that sort of stuff. So the people's disposable incomes right down. And it would have been when you started as well, Del. Because I remember the recession. Totally. I was working for RWE, like a big energy firm, trading for them. And then after that recession, everything just went nuts. And I was working in Swindon as well, which had a big Honda factory which closed down.
Right,
so like loads of unemployment came out of that. I don't know if that's all linked with the Honda pulling out of Formula One and stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
probably. But yeah, that was a huge factory and employed a hell of a lot of people in Swindon. Basically, the gym I used to go to when I was living in Swindon, I was going to this bodybuilding gym, but I wasn't a bodybuilder, and pretty much everyone in there worked at Honda.
Right, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Del, you made this change. You took your voluntary redundancy. You did your personal training qualification. You set yourself up as a freelance kind of self-employed trainer. You got your first client. And what happened next? I mean, where were you at this stage with your own training? Were you training more for fitness at this stage, or were you still doing more of the strength training yourself at this stage?
Right. Well, one of the things I had to get, of course, to be PT was some equipment. Mobile PT. So I'm limited as to what I can take in my van or my car at the time. So one of the things I bought TRX, bought some Bulgarian bags, and I bought a kettlebell. So that was kind of the start of the whole kettlebell thing. I bought some Jordan manufactured neoprene covered kettlebells, just comp bells. And I bought an usual 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 and a 28. So I remember picking up the 20 kilo, trying to do some swings with it and thinking, this is just a bit much. I really don't know what I'm doing. So it's bizarre, isn't it? So at that point, I thought I better get some qualifications under my belt. So I did one called the Kettlebell Training Academy, which the chap called Ramon, who doesn't do any, he does more mindful. I don't know if you've heard of him, Peter, have you?
Yeah, I did one of his courses. I did it with a guy called Ryan in London. Ryan, okay. I can't remember his name. He moved.
Right, okay. But it was a good course. It was a weekend course, and I enjoyed that. I then did the IKFF course with Steve Cotter. That was in London. I think that was 2011.
Yeah, we had Steve Cotter on the podcast.
Yeah, good bloke.
A while ago. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that one. Although the second day I was nursing a bad back, which kind of made me doubt where I'd actually pass, but I managed
that. That'll be because kettlebells are really bad for your back. They're not, by the way. That's a joke. In joke there.
Yeah, I don't think they are. No. Anyway, so that was good. I learned a lot from that, and basically I just started using kettlebells a lot of my clients and my own training. I didn't really know kettlebell sport was even a thing back then, to be honest. But then I got in touch, or someone got in touch with me, so I was on Facebook lifting bells and stuff. Mandy Kemp from Ipswich Kettlebells. You guys may not have heard of her.
I haven't.
No. Well, she used to run. Pentathlon all started with her and Valery Fedorenko. So she was pally with him, and she used to run 4 competitions a year out of Ipswich at Sports Hall there. So we had like the Spring Open, Summer Open, Autumn Open, Winter Open. So 4 comps a year just doing pentathlon. And she said to me, "Why don't you just have a go at that?" So I did. The concepts seemed really interesting to me. You know, the 5 different lifts, 6 minutes each. So I did my first event. It must have been around 2012, and I won it. I remember my score is 1513 points, so 1,513, which is still a respectable score even now. So I won that. So that was that really was the start of it, and I did 6 pentathlon comps on the bounce before I did any other sort of competition. And that's why I still love it still, because it was my intro to kettlebell sport.
Now I'm going to hold up the acronym hammer, which is making a return. It's a bit like Mallet's mallet, you know. For aging yourself with that quote. So I know we have had on before. We've had Finbar Tuilan on before. We've had Lauren Emery on before, but people don't listen to every episode, although they should. People don't listen to every single episode.
Shame on you.
Shame on you. But
I've got a big back catalogue to go through, so I'm right.
It's all right. We've only got 200
that's all right.
13 episodes. It'll not take that long.
No, I wasn't talking about you, Dale. I was talking about. Okay. So do you just want to quickly just explain what the pentathlon is, the kettlebell pentathlon that you've mentioned there?
Yes, so it's 5 different lifts, 6 minutes with each lift, and a 5-minute break between each lift. You can have up to 5 different kettlebell weights on the platform with you. So you lift for 6 minutes. The first lift is clean, so you just literally lift a kettlebell, swing it between your legs, and bring it up to rack position. That is always going to be the heaviest lift because nothing's going overhead. There's a maximum rep count for each lift. So with cleans, it's 120 reps. And those rep limits were put in place by Valery Fedorenko when he formulated the pentathlon to make sure that people's reps were of good quality, stop people from going too fast. So that's always the heaviest weight. You then press 5 minutes, then there's clean and press for 5 minutes. 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 on, 5 off. That generally, for me, is my lightest weight, but depends on the athlete. Some people are incredibly strong at pressing. Peter, for example, I can mention. But
not for 6 minutes.
Okay.
A couple of reps, and that's it.
Right. But it's not my strength, so I'd go quite light for that one. And then another 5-minute reps. Then it's jerk.
Mm-hmm.
These are all multi-switch as well, so you can change hands whenever you want to. So long cycle press at 60 reps max. Jerk is 120 reps. Jerk would be a bigger weight typically. Then you got half snatch, my favorite lift of all, and then you got push press. So it's a very strategic event. If you go out too heavy too soon, you're just going to burn out. So with cleans, I might use 40 kilos, maybe 44, but that's quite heavy for me. Clean and press, or 22, 24 back in the day when I had more of the bodybuilder build. But as I've got slimmer, I've got a bit less strength in that area. Then 26 kilo for jerk, 28 for half snatch, and back to 22 for push press. So for me, it's very much capitalizing on my strengths, which are cleans and half snatch. So I can bump it up to 28. But yeah, it's very strategic. You have to make sure you don't go out too fast too soon or too heavy too soon. But then the time you get to the last lift, you'll be, what could be a good score could be scuppered because you just burn out.
That's what I find. Because like you say, there's 5 different lifts, but apart from the cleans, I would say, and I might be wrong here, the rest of them are kind of putting stuff overhead. So your shoulders are doing a hell of a lot. I mean, the rest of your body's doing a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah.
In my head, it's like your shoulders are going to be taking a lot because you're putting the weight above your head every other rep, aren't you?
You are, yeah. I mean, all depends on how efficient you are as an athlete in getting that bell there.
Yeah.
So for me, with jerks, it's not my best lift. My overhead positioning is not great, so I'm not really that relaxed in that position. But my rack is really good, so I can get my elbows, my hip, so I can properly rest. So and half snatch, I'm very efficient. I can get the bell up quite well, but push press and jerk, I kind of suffer because my mobility is not great in that particular. It's far more efficient for me to get the bell up with half snatch than is jerk push press.
Yeah, we had David Keown on a few times, but the first time he was on, he was talking about the his time doing kettlebell sport, and he realized, he was like, I just need to get mobility, shoulder mobility. That's when he started doing the yoga for like specific movements to get into the overhead position, and his mobility is amazing.
It is.
So therefore his efficiency just became so much better, and he just started winning everything. And it was
totally. That's what it's all about, being efficient and not burning up calories, energy when you don't have to. It's totally different to strong first stuff, which is all about tension, isn't it, Pete? As you know. This kettlebell sport is about a lack of tension, just tension where you need it, then relax as soon as you can. So when we drop the bell from overhead, we're just dropping it fast.
There's
no eccentric kind of contraction on the way back down. It's just drop it quick as you can, just relax.
But that's where I mean, I work with Paul obviously, but that's where I use the it's more of a sports style rack for the press, because you can rest with a heavy bell, and then you just flick the switch on, switch everything on and press it, maximum tension, and then pull it back down and rest again. And you can just get so much more done. It's amazing. Because like my shoulders were getting cranky from trying to do the high tension stuff, and they just didn't like it.
Okay, right, really.
Right.
So still work quite a lot of trying to relax as much as you can then when you're doing the strong, heavy stuff.
Absolutely. I think especially with pressing as well, because, and I mean, it'll go with push press and with jerk as well, because like your delt is only a certain size. The rest of you, big like lats and quads and glutes and all that, but your delts are only a certain size. So if you're in a rack position there, you're not rested, your delt is on, and then trying to that's the first thing to go, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So if you can rest like that, it just goes squidgy.
That's one of the problems with my quads in the jerk and the push press. My quads are never truly relaxed.
When
I got quite a good rack position, I still find I can't get my legs completely straight, so my quads are always slightly fired up. and the jerk set 120 reps. So I do start to feel it in my quads towards the end. But yeah.
God, it's interesting you say that, because I think the difference between obviously like a hard style kind of kettlebell such as like Strong First or RKC, and then obviously the Kettlebell Sport that we're kind of talking about here, and they're two totally different ends of the spectrum, aren't they, in terms of what you're trying to do. Like I know I've heard people refer to hard style as like 100-meter sprint. And you're trying to generate as much force and as much tension as you can, and but you're working for short amounts of time. Whereas Kettlebell Sport, and especially we'll probably come on to, I think in a bit, we'll talk about the marathon, the Kettlebell marathon, is totally the other end of the spectrum, where you need as much relaxation as possible, and tension is the enemy in that extent.
Yeah, totally.
And they do, and I know that certainly Brett Jones from Strong First they're very complimentary about Kettlebell Sport, but they say it's just a different thing than they're teaching, because you often get people try and say, well, which is better, and they're totally different, because they've got different purposes, and one is a sport, and obviously that's totally different. So it's interesting as well, because pentathlon, correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of like a newer kind of kettlebell competition compared to the old-fashioned style. I think biathlon is it, where it's the long cycle and the snatch. Yeah. So, but you would have previously, I presume, get people do the more traditional kettlebell sport lifts, and then they maybe migrate into pentathlon. But now, presumably, you've got people coming into pentathlon.
Yeah,
it's their first kind of port of call and their first kind of competitions. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think there's quite a good crossover between pentathlon and marathon stuff as well.
Okay.
Also in GS. Okay.
So then let's talk about the marathon then, because you also you compete in the marathon as well, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So what is the mallets up again? Okay, mallets. The acronym HAMMER. Kettlebell Sport Marathon. I don't know. There's a half marathon as well. But what is it? How long does it last? And what lifts can you use for that event?
Okay, so you got, like say, 30 minutes or 60 minutes. You're not allowed to put the kettlebell down for the end, or not within the IKMF, the International Kettlebell Marathon Federation, before you get your hammer out.
Okay.
But I think with the World Kettlebell Sport Federation, the WKSF, I think you can put the bell down. But marathon originated with Stefan and the IKMF. So yeah, you're not allowed to put the bell down, which makes total sense to me, because it's a marathon. If you do 24 miles in a running race and don't cross the line, you're disqualified, aren't you, effectively? So I think you should do the distance. You can use, there used to be set weights, like 24 for amateurs, 32 for like pros, but now you can use any weight you want. There's a coefficient applied to each kettlebell. So there's multiple ways in which you can hit certain ranks. I got into that when in 2017, a chap called Andreas Jakobsson, you probably heard of him.
I have heard of him, yeah.
Pretty strong guy. He encouraged me to come over to Milan for the IKMF World Champs. I think it was the World Champs. I say in 2017. So I did train for it, loved it. It's one of the best probably lifts I've ever done. I was stood next to Andreas on the platform that he was next to me, and he kept shouting in words of encouragement over my way as he steamed ahead of his reps. He was so much more ahead of me, but we're in different categories, so it didn't matter. My target for that was 850 with a 24 in half snatch. And I got 855. So that was Master Sport World Class rank, MSWC, and that was my first one. So that was great. Really enjoyed it. But I was the only person from England. I was literally the sole England member. So yeah, I turned up my little placard and introducing England, and off I went with the thing just on my own. So yeah, it was Yeah, it's a good event. Again, it's very tactical. It's a mind game. You know, you're lifting a bell for an hour. It's all about hand management as well, not gripping your palms. On that particular lift, there was quite a lot of blood on my going on,
Yeah.
which makes things really, really difficult. But it's fairly typical in marathon lifting. There is quite a lot of blood spill quite often. Yeah.
So is that's I mean that did you say 855 reps in the hour for that? Was that the phrase? Was
yeah,
that the
yeah, that was
yeah.
So it's around, I think it's around 15 something a minute. I think it was.
Yeah, I'm just going to look. Yeah, 14.25 reps a minute. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's quite a pace, but I know that Andreas finished with like 900, nearly 1,000. So you know he was somewhere.
Is he the Italian guy who?
No, he's Norwegian.
Norwegian, right? No, there was an Italian guy who where it was in Belgium, and Ben Morris was up against him. Yeah, Burpee's friend of the show. He was up against him, and this Italian guy had arms like my legs, like they were massive. And I was just looking at Ben like,
I know who you mean. I can't remember his name, but yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah.
He was a big lad.
God, so just to put this into context for people who are listening, and I know quite a few people have you know use kettlebells to greater or less extent who listen, but that's a 24 kilo kettlebell that you did that with, Del, non-stop for an hour without putting the bell down, over 14 reps per minute in a half snatch, which I mean,
which is more than 20 tons.
Yeah. Oh, you just worked out.
Yeah.
Which is incredible, you know, and like you say,
it does sound mad.
Because the most I've done really is when we do like the part of a tactical strength challenge or a hard style certification. You know, you have to do 100 reps in 5 minutes. You know, and it's more of a kind of a sprint really in that amount of time. But I know obviously the pacing is that's 20 reps a minute for 5 minutes, and that's tough for me, you know, to do. But I know it's a totally different. You've trained.
You're talking about snatching the RKC kind of snatch.
Oh yeah. Sorry, that's more of that's a snatch test rather than a half snatch. Yeah. But still, you know, I think it's comparative. The weight that you're lifting for the amount of time that you're lifting for the number of reps that you're doing is incredible. Yeah, fantastic. So what is your main competitive lift now that you do? Is it pentathlon? Is it marathon? Or do you do both?
I'll do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get as many master sport ranks as possible. I've got, I think, I don't know, 7.
I think it's 7 because I was reading about it earlier.
Master sport ranks, world class. I've got probably 6 or 7 of those, and I think equivalent number of MS ranks. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to get those as many lifts as I can, basically. Pentathlon will always be a thing that I will do. Double bells, there's some ranks on the double bells which I'll never be able to do, like the double jerks. It's absolutely my worst lift. I just can't relax at all. My shoulders and my triceps just burn out because my overhead is just not good enough.
Because I suppose a single bell fixating overhead, you've got quite a lot more mobility you can move with, can't you? But double bells overhead, you're totally locked in, aren't you?
You are, yeah. You're right. Yeah, you do of course you still have to maintain a certain form of alignment in with a single bell.
Yeah,
but it is certainly a lot easier than double bells. Yeah. Though having said that, double half snatch was one of my favourite lifts back a few years ago. So I reused something like that. I got an MSWC rank in that one, which I did in Ireland. That was tough lift.
Yeah,
one of the toughest lifts I've done actually.
And how long would that be over? 10 minutes?
That's half hour.
Oh, that's a half. Wow.
Yeah, that's half hour. That was 10 minutes. What are you on about, James?
Well, no, because the traditional lifts were 10 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
You know what I mean? The traditional lifts were 10 minutes. So you do like a 10-minute, what was it, long cycle and a 10-minute snatch, wouldn't you? It would be the biathlon.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, no, it's all half hour. Even the double bells, it's half an hour. So it's quite a it's quite a lot. So all the normal GS lifts you do, but just the timing lines are totally different.
Because are they doing that? Sorry, go on, Pete.
No, carry on, because I've got a question after this.
Oh yeah, what I was going to ask was, is it like, when we've had like Brad Kearns on, who was an Iron Man kind of triathlete back in like the 90s, and we've had Phil Maffetone on, and we've talked to endurance people before, and they said initially when they came up with the triathlon, it was sprints, and then there was the Olympic distance triathlon, which was seen as really tough, and then there was a half Ironman, then an Ironman, and now people do even more than that. They do. So is it almost like that people just keep making these events harder and pushing the limits? Because you can do like a super marathon as well, can't you?
You can. I mean, my mate Andreas, again, he's done a 5-hour lift before. With a 5-hour lift, you can put the bell down for 5 minutes at the end of each hour.
Oh, that's nice.
It's still mad. Most I've done is 2 hours, and that qualifies as a super marathon. I did that actually a couple of years ago at Ollie's, at Wolfpack. So that was half snatch, obviously, and that was 1,815 reps or something like that with a 20. So a lighter weight, but that's currently down as an IKMF world record. So that's good.
Yeah, we had. It's funny when you talk about these world records, and this isn't taking anything away from me. This is just what David Keown said, because he did the 2-hour
double 16.
He did a 2-hour long cycle with 2:16s, and he got 600 odd reps. And he's like, anybody could beat that, but just nobody bothers because it's ridiculous.
It's a lot to take on, isn't it? It's a lot. I've never done 2 hours. I've done an hour with doubles, with half snatch and long cycle, double long cycle with 16, same weight David used.
Yeah.
But 2 hours is a whole different ballpark with 2 belts. That's a lot.
So this leads me on to my question, which is, like, we spoke to Ollie, and he does all these things at the same time in the same competition, doesn't he? He enters like...
Ollie's a bit of an animal when it comes to choosing the amount of lifts that he does.
Yeah. So, and he said a lot of people have said to him, well, you could have been better than you are, even though he's really good, but you could have been better because you could have focused on one and then done another one another time or whatever, which is what you're doing, right? So how does your training look? Because, well, you can tell me, but like, does the training for the marathon help with the pentathlon?
Yes.
Do they all kind of... I mean, the training will be slightly different for each different one, right? But do they all kind of melt into something similar, so you can maintain a decent level at all of them? And when I say a decent level, I mean your level, not like a standard level, but a really good kind of world-class level. Can you maintain that at all of them, so you can kind of go, right, I'm going for this one now, and just turn up one at a time?
Yeah, it depends on the lift, really. I think the marathon does playing well to pentathlon and vice versa. With the 10-minute stuff, my last proper 10-minute set I did was a double 24 half snatch, but that's for the IKMF World Games, which is a kind of a different thing altogether. So it's 2 24s, and I needed, I don't remember now, but I got 85 reps, I think it was. So for that, I had to put together a proper 8-week training cycle. Something separate away from the pentathlon and the marathon stuff, because it's GS stuff is really, really tough, as I'm sure you know. So yeah, that was a dedicated cycle to do that. With the pentathlon as well, it's kind of, I will work a proper 12-week cycle leading up to a pentathlon. If I'm doing a marathon at the same time, like the next day, which is what I did recently, pentathlon Saturday, marathon the Sunday for an hour, I wouldn't even have to train for the marathon. I will do a bit, but I know that I'm good for 20 kilo. That's what it would be for an hour for me to get the rank I wanted, 900 odd reps. I know I'd be good for that just with the pentathlon training alone. But in Belgium last year, I did half snatch for 30 minutes, 28 kilo. I needed 415 reps to get my MSWC. And for that, I had to have a proper dedicated training program, nothing else, because that's so much more challenging than 20 kilo for an hour, which is actually a comfortable lift. So it depends on the lift, on the particular intensity, and whether I'm going for an MSWC or MS rank.
So this World Games now that I kind of hear quite a lot about and see about, this is kind of like, am I right in saying these are like heavier lifts for less
Yeah,
time? Because I know that people are doing things with like a 40 kilo and
that's
stuff.
right. Yeah, Ben Morris does it.
Yeah, so just give us the quick rundown of this World Games, which is another separate thing.
Yeah, it's a new thing from the IKMF again. It's 10-minute lifts. It's 2 24s for guys on the double lifts. Two I should know this. 2 20s for ladies. Was it 2 16s? I should know.
That's
anyway,
okay. Yeah.
And for the single bell, it's 40 kg for men, 28 kg for women. All the usual lifts. Well, you've got snatch, you've got half snatch, jerk, and clean and jerk. And same with doubles, you've got push press as well. You've got strict push press and long cycle strict push press, which is quite a difficult one. 24s. Sorry, with 24s. Yeah. So you can put the bells down early with this lift. You don't get penalised, but obviously your score will be capped at that point. You can't pick them up again. So yeah, it suits the bigger, stronger guys. Although having said that, there's some fairly kind of petite athletes that are really kind of rocking it with a 28 and the 40. You know, it's there's some strong people out there. 40 kilo half snatch is something I did double with briefly. I'm not sure where I go back to or not, because age is a factor here. When you get into those bigger weights, the risk goes up. You know, if you don't land a 40 kilo kettlebell overhead safely, if you're slightly off, the chances of injury are quite high. Where you get away with a 24 or 28. So, but yeah, so that's just a different 10-minute event that the IKMF created, and it's quite popular.
Yeah, I think what I'm kind of hearing overall from the conversation today is that Kettlebell Sport there's so many different events now and organizations and competitions that it really is something that I don't want to say anyone can do. It's inclusive, isn't it? There's many different avenues to enter it.
Yeah, there is
ways that people can come in. So I mean, what's participation like in the kind of the kettlebell sports? I know you're highly involved in, you know, running comps and the England team and all the rest of it. I mean, is participation going up? Is it I
would say generally. I mean, it was pretty good. I think in pre-lockdown, probably the IKMF are at 220, 230 athletes per comp. After lockdown, it took a bit of a hammering, taking people quite a long time to get back to it. But I think the last competition had close to 200 people, so it's getting back up. Obviously, you're a bit limited to how many athletes you can have an event as well, because if say you've got 12 platforms and you're doing a pentathlon, it takes an hour. One flight takes an hour. So unless you have incredibly long days, which actually they do tend to have quite long days, you are limited, you are capped as to how many people you can have. Obviously, you can have more platforms, but then it just, it gets a bit awkward. You get too many platforms. But
because then you obviously need
judges,
you need the platforms,
you need the infrastructure,
you need the counting equipment, the judges,
exactly.
like you say, the size of room, all that kind of stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
So it is limited to a degree. The national comps, up to this year, I mean, our pentathlon was getting higher and higher numbers each time. So last year we had 80 people at the pentathlon, so it was a sellout. That's all we could do. This year it's gone a bit flat. We've got 49 registered, so it's a bit less. But yeah, it's still a good number. I'm not entirely sure why the number's slightly lower than it usually is. It perhaps is because the World Champs is in Belgium again. We've been there 3 times already, so maybe people are a bit reluctant to go back to Belgium again. I'm not too sure.
Because sometimes as well, people are maybe, because like you say, there's so much on offer now in terms of the different events. But it's not like people have maybe given up on kettlebells. They're maybe just doing a different event. They maybe slid over from pentathlon to half marathon or marathon or World Games or something. So yeah, it's just kind of that is a factor. And just to kind of, before we start to wrap up, Del, in terms of your own, so you are obviously, you know, this kettlebell sport athlete with loads of world records and loads of master of sport kind of world rankings and things as well. But in terms of your training of other people and your coaching of other people, do you specifically work with people who are wanting to get into kettlebell sport and are involved in kettlebell sport, or do you have a more general kind of client base as well?
No, I've quite a diverse client base, really. If people ring me up and say they want to get into kettlebell training, then yeah, that's fantastic for me to hear. That's kind of where I'm at. But no, I train my oldest client. Oldest client is 70. I've seen him for 12 years now, and he just does general training. But, and I've got others which just do kettlebell stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, it's not just kettlebells. I'm obviously limited to the amount of equipment I've got. So it's generally functional training that I would do. I don't take people into gyms. I don't have access to a gym. Got my little space here, but it's not particularly big. Yeah, so I'd say it's quite a diverse range of people.
And do you train anyone at your gym at home or your area outside, or do you tend to go to them? Are you more of a person who goes to them and train where they want to train?
Some come here. So we train under the gazebo or in here if we need to. But generally speaking, I travel to people's houses.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I do a bit of online coaching as well. Not a great deal at the moment, but I do some of that as well.
Yeah. And you still use the Bulgarian bags? You mentioned Bulgarian bags at the start. You still use them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're really versatile. I really like them. Yeah, I've got a couple. I've got an 8, a 12, and a 17. So yeah, I think they're really good tools.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And Concept 2 rower, of course, Concept 2 bike. The rower fits my van quite nicely, so that gets trundled off to people's houses. Yeah.
Excellent. So, I mean, at 58 years of age now, Del, I mean, how long are you going to continue competing at the level and the frequency that you do? I mean, is there any plans to let up, or do you think you'll be able to keep competing for the next 10 years doing what you're doing?
That'd be nice. No plans to stop. At the moment, I'm nursing a bit of an injury on my left bicep. It's a bit of a weird one. So I'm not doing so much at the moment. But yeah, I don't see why I can't just keep going at it. I try and keep things more fun if I can now, and not kind of that set I had in Belgium, the 4:15 with a 28. I'm kind of trying to avoid going there again, because that was kind of really took it out of me. It took me a good couple of days to recover. Yeah. And I didn't really enjoy it, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to avoid sort of going into too much of a dark place. I want to enjoy it. I love my training, the actual training side of it. Competing, I only really enjoy it kind of retrospectively, really. I don't enjoy the build up to it. I get a bit nervous. Sometimes I can enjoy the actual lifting itself if I feel it's going well, but generally speaking, it's the elation afterwards when you've achieved what you're wanting to achieve. And then I thought, yeah, okay, that was a good weekend. So,
yeah. Because I suppose also, you know, don't you, before going into like a 30-minute set or a 60-minute set or whatever you're doing, it's like, you know, it's going to hurt before you go in.
Of course.
You know? So it's kind of like, it's a strange one, isn't it? It's like running a marathon, you know, on the road, or any of these big endurance things. You know, you're going to go through horrible times and some dark places, but it's when you get to the end that you get that kind of reward. But it must be hard to keep putting yourself voluntarily in those dark places, like you say, as you're getting older, knowing that, do I really want to do this? Do I really have the appetite for it? You know, like
of course. I mean, there's more to it than that. It's not just about me doing the lift. It's about the community spirit as well. It's about the team members. You know, we took 26 people to the last comp, and we've won 3 belts now. Best sort of country belts. Basically, we won the most gold medals. Now, obviously, it's a numbers game. You take more people, chances are you win the belt. We've won 3 out of the last 4. So that's kind of why I love to do it, as well as the photography as well. We didn't touch upon that. I like to take the photos of the athletes. So that's something. So yeah, the whole weekend is just a mix of different things for me. The lifting is just it's one element of it, but it's not just about the lifting.
Yeah. Yeah, I do get the sense of that. And I do, yeah, we haven't touched on your photos yet, your photography, but all the pictures that come out from every comp, pretty much, I think, are your photos, aren't they? And they're fantastic, capturing, you know, the faces and the different stages of the sets and things.
Yeah, I love it.
They're incredible. Yeah.
For me, it's a good distraction.
Yeah.
Because most of the athletes, they're milling around, they're nervous, it's not a good place to be. But taking photos just takes my mind off things.
Yeah.
It makes it a bit hard sometimes to suddenly zero in on my set, because I could literally be taking photos 10 minutes before I'm due to go on. Dishing the camera, doing a quick shoddy warm up, not usually that good. And then as soon as I've done my set, I've got 10 minutes to recover, then I'm taking the photos again. So it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
But I love doing it. So
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I know you've got another client coming up this afternoon. So we're gonna wrap up there, Dale. But thank you so much for joining us. If people want to follow you, find out more about what you do, more about Kettlebell Sport and all the kind of things that you're involved in, what's the best platform or the best way for people to do that? Are you most active on Instagram or Facebook, or where are you?
Facebook, really, just Dale Wilson. Instagram is I've got two. I've got a Kettlebell Nation Instagram page, and I've got a couple of pages on Instagram, Dale Wilson, and
have you got the photography one as well? Isn't there a photography?
Yeah, there is a photography one on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
KP Sport Photography. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And I've got a website, but it's still functional, but it's not really. I don't really man it that much. It still works. But kettlebellnation.com.
Kettlebellnation.com.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dale. It's been
welcome.
Great. And I had no idea you used to be a bodybuilder as well on stage and things. So, until I started researching things. So that's great. That's really, really good. Pete, anything you'd like to say as we wrap up?
No, it's just great to hear like different stuff, and like the kettlebell sport world. I've known about like it for a long time, but I just keep learning new stuff, because it's like every time I have someone like Dell on, or Finn or Ben or whatever, and Lauren, and there's so many and it's expanding as well. Like you were saying, there's like different events showing up and everything. So it's kind of evolving in front of us, isn't it? Like you say, people are now going heavier and for shorter amounts of time and stuff like that, because they've got to a certain level in everything else. So it's like, well, what's next? What's next? So it's just good to see. We'll have our own Kettlebell Olympics soon.
It'd be nice to get it in the Olympics, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think there's too many federations at the moment. I think it has to be a bit more unified.
Okay. Yeah. You need one unifying body. Yeah. No, thank you so much, Dale. That's really, really interesting. And I know we went in depth there in a few things, but hopefully you found that interesting as well, listening to Dale. And I think the main thing, 58 years old, having gone through serious kind of level running, competitive bodybuilding, one is two shows that he went into, then moving into Kettlebell Sport and all the different iterations of that. So, and no plans on slowing up or giving up. So it's absolutely incredible. Please do join us next week, guys. We will be back for episode 214. We have got Claire Rafferty with us next week, who I think she is a global kind of master trainer for High Rocks, and also one of the High Rocks race directors who travels around. She's out actually in Club La Santa at the moment in Lanzarote doing a High Rocks training camp out there. So that's going to be interesting next week. So that's going to be episode 214. So please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so. And especially, we are looking for reviews on Apple Podcasts. And when we're back next week, we'll be able to give you a brief rundown as well of, we probably won't do it next week because we've got Claire on, but the Britain's Disabled Strongman, Strongwoman this weekend, which is going to be fantastic. So I'm sure you'll see lots of photos and things about that over the coming days. Anyway, until next week, thank you, Dale.
You're welcome. Very much. Just look at your Funko Pops there, James. You're a bit of a collector.
I am a bit of a collector. Are you a collector?
No, I'm not. But how many you got?
Oh, I haven't got loads of. Don't get me started. We do another whole. I haven't got loads of the Funkos. I've got some up high and some over there, but I've got loads of different things. I've got loads of stuff as well as all this stuff.
Right, yeah. My son's got about 300, I think.
Oh, nowhere near that. No.
He's got a mental amount of Funko Pops.
No.
Do you notice how Del said his son? His son.
How old is your son? 30?
Old enough to, well, too old to have that many amounts. Yeah.
I could spin it. I can't really spin the camera around, but now I've got loads of geeky stuff in here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, cool. on that note, we could get a sponsorship from Funko. Always welcome to sponsor the Health Oddity podcast. Anyway, we will see you next week for episode 214. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.